The monitor screamed. Asystole. No heartbeat. No pulse. No time. He's coding! Dr. Kevin Walsh's hands hovered over the open chest, frozen. The confidence that had carried him through 17 years suddenly gone. The man on the table was drowning in his own blood. SEAL commander. 3 gunshot wounds. Classified op. The paramedics had used the phrase, "Miracle he made it this far," twice on the radio. Miracles didn't last. Walsh's fingers trembled, just slightly, just enough. Someone get the paddles. Won't work. The voice came from behind the equipment rack. Female, quiet, wrong. Every head turned. Eleanor Kovacs stood in the corner, where she'd been standing for the last 40 minutes. Standard scrubs, standard badge, RN, recent hire, 4 months at St. Michael's, 4 months invisible. She took 1 step forward. Internal paddles won't restart what you haven't repaired. Her voice wasn't loud. Didn't need to be. The bullet fragmented. You're looking at an arterial bleed you haven't located yet. Walsh's face went from pale to red. Excuse me? I don't recall asking. You have maybe 90 seconds before the blood volume drops below critical. Eleanor took another step. Her eyes locked on the commander's chest, not on Walsh. After that, it doesn't matter what you do. Dr. Lisa Park, the resident who'd sent Eleanor for coffee that morning, found her voice. Sharp, defensive. Nurses don't diagnose arterial... 70 seconds. Eleanor was moving now, not rushing, not hesitant, just moving with the certainty of someone who'd made this walk before. Walsh stepped sideways, not quite blocking her, not quite moving aside. You're out of line. Way out of... 60 seconds. Eleanor was at the table now, her hands already moving to glove position. You can file a complaint after, or you can help me save him now. She looked at Walsh directly for the first time. Choose. Something in her eyes made him step back. Eleanor's hands entered the chest cavity. No hesitation, no tentative probing. Her fingers moved like they had a map, finding the pulmonary hilum, tracing the vessels, searching for the tear that Walsh had missed. The room held its breath. There. Eleanor's voice dropped, almost to herself. Posterior branch, 3 millimeter nick, pumping with every beat you tried to restart. Her fingers moved, applying pressure with absolute precision. The angle perfect, the force exact. The bleeding slowed, then stopped. Walsh stared. How did you... I need a clamp, number 5 DeBakey, and someone get me 2 units of ONEG running wide open. He's down at least 40% volume. Nobody moved. Eleanor's head turned, just slightly, just enough to catch the scrub nurse's eye. Now. They moved. As the clamp was placed in her hand, Eleanor's fingers never shifted position. Not a millimeter, holding pressure while threading the instrument into position. A maneuver that required spatial awareness most surgeons spent years developing. She'd done it in helicopters, in sandstorms, in the dark. This was easy. The clamp closed. The bleeding stopped completely. Monitors began to stabilize, blood pressure ticking upward, oxygen saturation climbing from the edge. Eleanor stepped back, her gloves red to the wrists, her face unchanged. On the table, the commander's eyes opened, unfocused, pupils blown from shock, searching through the fog of dying. They found Eleanor. Something changed in his face. Recognition, disbelief, then certainty. His hand moved. It shouldn't have been possible. Blood pressure barely registering, body shutting down, brain starving for oxygen. But his hand moved anyway, slowly, deliberately, with the focused determination of a man who'd spent 23 years doing impossible things. His arm rose, bent at the elbow, hand to forehead. A salute. Perfect form. Even dying. Commander. His voice barely existed. A whisper wrapped in blood and fluid. Shepherd. The trauma bay went silent. Not the silence of concentration, The silence of shock. Every surgeon, every resident, every nurse who had watched Elena count supplies and fetch coffee for 4 months. Frozen. Walsh's mouth opened. No sound came out. The commander's hand wavered, started to fall. Elena caught it, gently, lowered it back to his side. "Stay with me, James." Her voice different now, stripped of the careful neutrality she'd worn for 4 months. "You don't get to die here." His lips moved. "Always follow the shepherd. Then follow." Eleanor turned to the room, her voice carrying command that made junior officers stand straighter without knowing why. "I need a thoracotomy tray, full vascular setup, and someone call for 4 units, O negative. He's going to need aggressive volume resuscitation." Park found her voice, shaking. "You can't. You don't have privileges." "Lieutenant Commander Eleanor Kovacs, United States Navy, combat surgeon, SEAL Team 4, 6 years." Eleanor's hands were already working, extending the incision, placing retractors, moving, with mechanical certainty. 63 surgical interventions in active combat, 0 deaths under direct care. She didn't look up. This man held security for me in Kandahar, while I operated in a building with no roof. I held his heart in my hands for 3 minutes in the Hindu Kush, while mortars landed close enough to shake blood off my gloves. Her fingers moved deeper, finding, repairing, saving. "I am not losing him in a hospital because you're confused about credentials." She looked at Walsh then. No anger, no triumph, just fact. "Help me or step back." Walsh stepped back. The surgery lasted 14 minutes. Eleanor worked in silence, finding every bleed point, every torn vessel, every fragment of bullet that had turned the commander's chest into a maze of damaged tissue. Her hands remembered what her mind had tried to forget. The vibration of helicopter blades, the crack of rifle fire through tent walls, the weight of men who whispered, "Don't let me die," in languages she barely understood. The impossible mathematics of triage. Who lives, who dies, who can wait 60 seconds and who needs saving now. She had carried 73 men back from death. She had thought she could put that woman down, walk away, be someone smaller, someone who didn't hold lives between her fingers every day. But Shepard doesn't leave. Shepard just waits. When the heart arrested again, a complete stop, the flat line of death, Eleanor didn't reach for instruments. She reached in, her hand finding the heart directly, wrapping around it, feeling the stillness, and she began to compress. Direct cardiac massage, the most intimate form of resuscitation, holding the muscle, feeling every fibre, commanding it back to life through touch alone. "Come on, James." Her voice low. Private. The voice she'd used in field hospitals and forward operating bases. "Not here, not like this." 1 compression. The heart sat still in her palm. 2, nothing. 3, a flutter. Maybe imagination. 4, stronger, definite. 5, the heart contracted on its own, weak, but alive. 6, rhythm establishing, the muscle remembering its purpose. Monitors sang, blood pressure rising, oxygen climbing, colour returning to grey skin. Eleanor held the heart for 3 more beats, making sure, then slowly withdrew her hand. The room was silent. She stepped back, blood on her gloves, on her scrubs, on her arms to the elbow. Her hands shook now, finally allowing it. Walsh stared at her like she'd materialised from another dimension, because, in a way, she had. He'd never seen this woman. Only the quiet nurse, the invisible one. He'd never seen Shepard, the woman who had guided 73 souls home through darkness. 3 hours later, Commander James Harrington was stable in the ICU. Monitors hummed. Machines breathed for him. But his heart beat on its own. Strong, steady, alive. Eleanor stood at the observation window, still in her surgical scrubs, still wearing the blood of a man she'd saved twice now. Footsteps approached. She didn't turn. Dr. Kovacs. Walsh's voice, different than this morning, stripped of the casual cruelty. She waited. I need to, he struggled. I need to apologize for how I spoke to you, how I treated you. I didn't know. Eleanor's voice was flat. You didn't know. No, I didn't. Silence stretched between them. But why? Walsh moved to stand beside her, looking at Harrington through the glass. Why would someone with your record work as a nurse? Let people treat you like I was less. He flinched. Eleanor watched Harrington's chest rise and fall. Because I needed to remember what it felt like to be small. I don't understand. I know you don't. She turned to face him. You've been a surgeon for 17 years. How many patients have you lost? Walsh's jaw tightened. 34. I've been a surgeon for 12 years. I've lost 0. His eyes widened. Not 1. Eleanor's voice carried no pride, only weight. 63 operations, 63 saves, every single one. Do you know what that costs? Walsh shook his head. Everything. Eleanor looked back at Harrington. Every single save extracts something, a piece of who you are, because you can't lose. Not one. Not ever. Every patient that comes in, you have to be perfect. No mistakes, no hesitation, no bad days. Her voice dropped. After 6 years, I wasn't Eleanor Kovacs anymore. I was just Shepherd, just the mission, just the 0 on the board that had to stay 0. She paused. I came here to find out if there was anything left, if Eleanor still existed under all that weight. And did you? Find her? Eleanor smiled. Sad. Knowing. I thought so. For 4 months, I was just a nurse. Invisible. Safe. I let you treat me like furniture because being small meant not carrying the weight, not being responsible for whether people lived or died. She looked at her hands, still steady, still certain. Then James came through those doors, and I remembered. You don't get to stop being who you are. Not really. You can hide it, bury it, pretend it doesn't exist. Her voice hardened. But when someone's dying and you can save them, it's not a choice. It never was. Walsh was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. What happens now? Now? Eleanor looked at Harrington, at the machines keeping him alive, at the evidence of everything she'd tried to leave behind. Now, I have to decide if I can keep pretending. Pretending what? That I'm not Shepherd. 6 weeks later. The Navy Medical Liaison Office was smaller than expected, institutional, cold. But the captain behind the desk radiated authority that filled the space. Lieutenant Commander Kovacs, thank you for coming. Eleanor sat without being asked. Old habits. Sir, Commander Harrington sends his regards. Full recovery, already cleared for limited duty. The captain's mouth twitched. Against medical advice, naturally. That sounds like James. It does. The captain slid an envelope across the desk. He asked me to give you this. Eleanor opened it. Inside, a challenge coin. Seal trident. Team 4. Worn smooth from years of handling. And underneath, a note in Harrington's handwriting. Shepherd. You never lost one. Now teach others to do the same. The teams need you. Frost. She held the coin, felt its weight, all the history carved into the metal. JSOC is establishing a forward surgical training program. The captain's voice was careful, professional. They need someone with your experience to design the curriculum, lead the instruction. Eleanor studied the coin. It would mean returning to active duty. Full rank restoration, deployment rotations, the full commitment. I understand, sir. Do you? The captain leaned forward. Because Harrington told me why you left. He told me about the weight, about what it cost to save 73 men without losing one. He said by the end, you were disappearing. Elena looked up. He said you needed to stop, to find yourself again, to remember who Elena Kovac was before she became shepherd. The office was quiet. He also said you saved him twice. The captain's voice softened. Once in the mountains, where everyone expected you to be a hero, where you had the uniform, the authority, the full support of special operations. He paused. And once in a hospital, where everyone expected you to fetch coffee? Eleanor waited. He said the second save was more impressive. Why? Because in the mountains you had everything, the resources, the respect, the infrastructure backing every decision. The captain stood, walked to the window. In that hospital you had nothing. You were invisible, dismissed, disrespected. He turned back, and you stepped forward anyway. Eleanor felt something shift in her chest. Anyone can be a hero when the world expects it, the captain said, when you're wearing the uniform and everyone knows your capability. He paused. It takes something more to be one when they think you're there to serve coffee. He extended his hand. The teams need that, not just the technical skill, but the understanding of what it costs, the weight, the price, the choice to step forward when no one expects you to. Elena shook his hand. I need time to think, sir. Of course. Take the coin. Talk to Harrington if you need to. He's available. After she left, Eleanor sat in her car, holding the coin, feeling its weight. The trident gleamed in the afternoon sun. She thought about James, saluting her while he died. She thought about Walsh, frozen while a man bled out. She thought about the 73 men whose names she carried like prayers. And she thought about the next generation, the ones who would face the same darkness, make the same impossible choices. They would need to learn, not just the technical skills, but how to carry the weight. Someone had to teach them, someone who understood the cost, someone who had paid it. Eleanor put the coin in her pocket, started the engine. Some choices aren't really choices. 4 months later, the forward operating base existed in a place that had no name on official maps. Hot, dry. Somewhere men went to do impossible things in the darkness. Lieutenant Commander Eleanor Kovac stood before 20 combat medics and surgeons in a converted tent. Behind her, anatomical diagrams and tactical scenarios covering a whiteboard. In front of her, the next generation. Young, eager, confident in the way people are before they've held a dying heart in their hands. They would learn. You're here because you want to save lives in impossible conditions. Elena's voice carried authority that made them straighten without knowing why. I'm here to teach you how. She held up the challenge coin. Let them see it, the trident, the where, the history. This was given to me by a SEAL commander whose life I saved twice. She paused. Once in the mountains, in combat, where everyone expected me to be a hero, where I had the uniform, the team, every resource that military could provide. She set the coin on the table. And once in a civilian hospital, where everyone expected me to be invisible. The tent was silent. The second save was harder. She could see the question in their eyes. Not because of medical complexity. A pulmonary artery tear is a pulmonary artery tear regardless of location. Eleanor picked up a marker, began drawing on the whiteboard. It was harder because the enemy wasn't bullets or blood loss. She turned to face them. It was assumptions, expectations, the weight of people who couldn't see past my badge to what I really was. The marker moved across the board, sketching vessels, mapping anatomy. You will face the same thing. You will be underestimated, questioned, dismissed. People will tell you that you're too young, too inexperienced, too different from what they expect. She finished the diagram, turned back, and in that moment, when a life hangs in the balance, you will have a choice. Her voice dropped, harder. Accept what they think you are. Stay in your lane. Follow the hierarchy. Let someone else make the decision. She picked up the coin again. Or become who you really are. One of the students, young, female, bold, spoke up. What did you choose? Eleanor smiled, sad, knowing. I chose invisible, for a while, after I left the teams, after 63 operations without a loss, after I'd given everything and didn't know if anything remained. She paused. I needed to stop, to heal, to find out if Eleanor Kovacs still existed underneath Shepherd. Did she? Eleanor looked at the coin, at the trident worn smooth from being carried. I thought so. For 4 months I was just a nurse. I fetched coffee, counted supplies, stayed quiet, let people treat me like furniture. She met the student's eyes. Part of me was okay with that, because being small meant being safe. It meant not carrying the weight of whether people lived or died. Her voice changed, harder. But when Commander Harrington came through those doors, bleeding out, dying, I didn't choose to step forward. She paused. I just did. Because that's who I am, who I'll always be. She looked at each of them in turn. You can take off the uniform. You can walk away from the teams. You can let the world see whatever they want to see. Her voice filled the tent. You can even be invisible if you need to. She put the coin in her pocket. But you can never stop being a healer, because when someone's dying and you can save them, it's not a choice anymore. Her hand rested on her pocket, on the coin, on the weight. It's who you are. The tent held its breath. Eleanor turned to the whiteboard, picked up the marker. Now, she said, let's begin. The men and women who serve alongside Special Operations Forces carry their training forever. In their hands, in their hearts, in the instant decisions that separate life from death. Dr. Elena Shepherd Kovacs tried to become invisible, tried to be small, tried to walk away from the weight of 73 saves and 0 losses. But when a SEAL commander saluted her from a gurney, dying, trusting, knowing, the world finally saw what she had always been, a healer, a warrior, a shepherd who never loses her flock. She tried to leave, succeeded for 4 months, almost convinced herself that Eleanor could exist without Shepherd. But some things are carved too deep to erase. Some identities are written in blood and saved lives, and the muscle memory of hands that have held hearts and commanded them back from death. Commander Harrington knew, even dying, even in shock. Shepherd was there, would always be there. Because you can change your badge, your rank, what the world sees, but you can't change who you are when someone needs saving. In a tent that doesn't exist on maps, teaching students who will face the same darkness, Elena Kovacs has found her answer. She tried to stop being shepherd. Now she's teaching others to become one. The coin rests in her pocket, heavy, real, a reminder of 2 saves and 1 truth. Anyone can be a hero when expected. It takes a shepherd to be one when invisible, and the world needs shepherds. The students lean forward. Let's begin, Eleanor says. And somewhere in the darkness, another operation waits, another impossible save, another choice that isn't really a choice. Shepherd never stops. She just teaches others to follow.